As many of you know, Bob Saget unexpectedly passed away on January 9th. Now, growing up, he was huge for my family. We watched Full House religiously. Every Tuesday night, we would tune in to Full House on ABC. That for our family was must-see TV. I can remember times when my mom would have to set the VCR to tape Full House because we weren't going to be home, and the just tragedy when you would come home and find out the VCR didn't record for some reason, or recorded the wrong time or the wrong show or something like that. So my point being, growing up, I was just a huge fan of Bob Saget. As a kid, though, I didn't realize some of the other things he was involved with, for instance, his stand-up comedy. Also, the fact that he was a director. In 1996, Bob Saget directed For Hope. Saget directed the movie For Hope in honor of his sister, Gaye, who passed away at the age of 47 in 1994 from the disease scleroderma. If you've never heard of scleroderma, that was the reason Bob Saget made the movie. He wanted to kind of educate people what it was, what it involved, how people basically deal with it, cope with it, and live with it, and die with it. And so this movie, For Hope, I wanted to take a look at in memory of him, in honor of him, really. I'm going to give this a fair review and tell the pros and the cons. Really, there's only one big con, and it's going to be hard to talk about, but I will try to do my best in a respectful way. In the movie For Hope, Dana Delaney is diagnosed with scleroderma. She's a young woman, has her whole life ahead of her, and she discovers that she has this. She, of course, reveals this to her family, and they all cope with it in their own way. Her battle with scleroderma is mostly seen in this movie through the eyes of her brother, a TV writer, comedian. Sound familiar? His name is Ken Altman, and he's played by Henry Czerny. We also see her battle through the eyes of her son, Alan, and her parents, David, played by Harold Gould, and Molly, played by Polly Bergen. For Hope, and I mean this in a good way, a sincere good way, is almost like a pamphlet about scleroderma. What I mean by that is there are scenes that literally have a Q&A in them, where one character is asking these questions about the disease and another person is answering them. We go through how different members of the family cope with Hope having this disease: the parents, the son, the brother, and of course Hope herself. It's worth noting that at the beginning of the movie we see Hope in her love life, which allows for some pretty interesting cameos. You have Louis Anderson, John Ritter, Peter Scolari, some really recognizable names from my generation who unfortunately have passed, many of whom in recent years. So it's bittersweet seeing those familiar faces. It's also worth noting this was a TV movie for 1996, so it looks like a TV movie. Now, that's not a complaint. A TV movie in 1996 is going to look like a TV movie. It's a product of its time. It can be expertly crafted, but a product of its time, and that's okay. Performances for the most part are good. Dana Delaney, exceptional in the title role. Her parents are also really effective here. Harold Gould and Polly Bergman playing her parents, they really do a lot of the heavy lifting as far as the acting. Their scenes are very emotional. There comes a point where the dad has to give Hope permission, so to speak, to pass. And Harold Gould, both him and Polly Bergen, they really do some great work here. Now, for the sake of fairness, I do have to talk about probably for me the one con, or the biggest by far con. Now, I want you to hear me out and understand what I'm trying to say here. As I mentioned before, Henry Czerny plays Ken Altman, and Ken is a stand-in for Bob Saget, just as Hope is a stand-in for Saget's sister Gaye. Ken Altman here, the character, is a stand-in for Bob Saget. Now, Saget has said that he used humor to cope with seeing his sister battle this illness, this disease. So in this movie, Ken, he too uses a lot of humor to cope with seeing Hope's struggle, or her battle, I should say. The problem is the humor. I understand what they were going for, but it's just not funny, and sometimes it's almost offensive. And I know what the defense here will be. It'll be, well, humor like that used to cope about a disease or something. A lot of times it is a little bit cringeworthy. It is a little bit unfunny, or it makes people uncomfortable. I understand that. But the humor here is just way it comes on way too strong. Keep in mind, this is a movie. It's not real life. This is a movie where the jokes are planned. I say it like that because it's one thing in real life if maybe someone throws a little bit of humor or a casual funny remark or something like that, but in a teleplay, the jokes are planned. So in every scene, when there's some dramatic dialogue or a dramatic scene or something important's happening, it starts to get uncomfortable how Ken, every time he enters the room, he always has to make a joke. But I think there's a bigger issue with that character. Saget was a hilarious guy. As I mentioned before, I was and still am a huge fan of Bob Saget. I think one of the problems here with the character Ken, his surrogate in the movie, is that Henry Czerny, when he should be playing him like Bob Saget, he's instead playing him like Robin Williams. In other words, Saget had a very, casual, it was a very cool, casual type of humor, if you get what I'm saying. He wasn't zany, he wasn't manic or anything like that. It was a very, he had funny remarks, funny commentary. Whereas the actor here, Henry Czerny, every one of the jokes he delivers with Robin Williams, with the funny voices and the manic humor and the energy and everything. And I think that Saget's humor coming out of this Robin Williams-esque performance is where there's a disconnect, and it adds to some of the jokes being a little bit more awkward than intended. Again, some of you may say, well, when people use humor to cope with serious issues, it's uncomfortable. But if you see the movie, I think you'll know what I mean. I feel like Henry Czerny should have maybe played this role more like Saget instead of he plays the character like a zany Robin Williams-esque character when those aren't the jokes being provided here. Another negative I've heard about the film, and I can't really comment on it, some people have said this presents a worse case of scleroderma. And maybe it might cause alarm in some people who have a milder case. I can't comment on that criticism, though I am reminded of a scene early in the movie when Hope gets the diagnosis and someone's like, oh, well, I know people who've lived a long time with scleroderma. And she says, well, how long? And they say, 10 years. And they say that like 10 years is forever, but we see the look on Hope, Dana Delaney, her face. This 10 years is not that long. That's one of the most powerful scenes in the movie, in my opinion. But again, this movie is from Bob Saget's eyes. He saw what his sister endured and battled. And so I do think surely there is a lot of accuracy in the portrayal here. Would I recommend For Hope? I think I would. I think I would if you're grieving. Maybe you have someone who is battling a disease, whether it's scleroderma or another serious illness. I think there's a lot here that touches on, for instance, grief and loss and what people just regularly endure in those situations. It's not entertainment viewing. This is not something where everyone gathers around and eats popcorn, and it's nothing like that. But it is an honest, raw for network TV look at this serious illness. And yeah, I would recommend it if you know someone who might be helped by this movie. Maybe yourself would be helped by it. I give For Hope 2.5 out of 4 stars. Have you seen the movie? What did you think of it? Let me know in the comments. Again, it is right now available to view on Crackle. Were you a fan of Bob Saget? Let me know some memories you have of him and his work in the comments. Also, hit that like button, subscribe to my channel. Until next time, this has been Josh with Movies Please. Thanks for watching.